Well, I was back in the Proverbs last week and hit Proverbs 19, and verse 21 struck me, and so I wanted to share it with you and maybe follow it up with a few other passages and thoughts. But Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21 says, "Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand." So many are our plans, right? We can come up with all sorts of things, and we're going to do this next week, and next month, and next year. But those things are subject to change. Sometimes those things never come to pass. But that same thing is not true of God's plans, right? God's purpose, the scripture says, will stand. And so we put this proverb in the context of this last year. If there's one thing this global pandemic has taught us, and it has taught us many things, it's that our plans are subject to change. But we could wrongly conclude that God's plans also had to change. That this pandemic has somehow thrown a wrench into God's purpose. That now his plans have been thwarted and he's had to readjust and change some things about what he wanted to take place. That would be a wrong conclusion. It's true for us because clearly our plans have changed, and yet it's not true of the Lord. And so as I was thinking about this proverb, my mind also went to James chapter 4, where he says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that." If the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. So, again, we've seen this come to pass. We had plans. We said today or tomorrow I'm going to do this. Next year I'll do this. And then it changed in a second. So what we ought to say instead is, if God wills, because again, God's purpose stands. So if God wills, I'll live. If God wills, I'll take my next breath. If he doesn't, then I won't. And if God wills, I'll live and I'll do this or that. And if he doesn't, then I won't. And so what the scripture is trying to press into us is to make our plans not only subject to change, but subject to change according to the purpose of the Lord. And so one mistake that we could easily make as things kind of shift very slowly back into normal, I guess you could say, is the lockdowns have ended, the quarantine the regulations have shifted, and the mask regulations are changing. As we go back into a new state of normal, we could very easily just go back to the way it was before. We could be proud, arrogant, presumptuous, making our plans, or we can subject our plans to the scripture and learn to say, if the Lord wills, I'll live and I'll do this or that. Otherwise, we're just falling right back into an error. We're not learning one of the many good lessons that we can learn from this pandemic. So I just want to challenge you with that. I want to encourage you, even as we think about that, the fact that God's plans never change, nothing throws him off. So we can put our trust and our confidence in him, even as we make plans of our own.